Welcome back to the Piping Pastor. Today, I am trying out a new tobacco, new to me in any case. This is the Indaba by HU. I mentioned this before, that I had received it last week, and I was waiting until I finished off my Green Dragon to get into this. It is labeled like HUs are, of course, with the ingredients. The larger the font, the more of the component. And this is a Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, Kentucky, and dark fire Kentucky mixture. So, as you can see, Virginia is the key component there. And I've mentioned previously that I really enjoy the Virginia Burley blends and the Virginia Dark Fire Kentucky blends from Country Squire. So I thought I might like this one as well. So popping the tin and gonna have my first experience with you on video. This is another one of these tobacco review kind of videos. For those of you who are relatively new to the YouTube pipe community, it seems as if every year, 2 years or so, people start getting persnickety about the fact that people in the YTPC don't talk enough about pipes and tobacco. That we spend far too much time talking about our own individual things or political views or religion and so on and so forth. And we don't talk about pipes and tobacco. And then there's this call to come back to what the YTPC was initially, which was just all about pipes and tobacco. Which, sure, fair enough. This is a community about pipes and tobacco. However, as is often the case, people misremember history sometimes. Because if you look at a lot of those old videos, Sergeant Savinelli and Matches and some of the older videos from way back in the day, yes, they talked about pipes and tobacco, they did reviews and so on and so forth. But there was a lot of Matches videos where it's just him telling stories about his childhood and so forth. So this is not one of those things. This is not some reactionary venture on my part to return to all tobacco reviews all the time. It just so happens that I've tried a couple of new tobaccos, and I thought I enjoy those experiences when people try new stuff, new to them. So I thought I'd give it a go as well. And for this, I'm using my fake Van Cleef. I did a video on this pipe when I got it. So if you want to know why I call it the fake Van Cleef, look back in the library and check that one out. But it's a Meerschaum, obviously, and I just did a fresh ream on it. So you have the clearest taste of this tobacco. So here we go. We'll pop her open and see what we can see. Now, I just, of course, said, let me just pop her open and did not grab a tool. I have no fingernails. So the struggle is real on this channel. I will not edit this part out. Oh, it's a nice little hiss, actually. Was not expecting that. This tobacco is not that old. It is, yeah, 5 months old. So, but here we go. Top is off, and you'll have to go through 15 pucks to get to it. Okay. Virginia is definitely present, at least in the tin though. That really strong hay. Not necessarily the baking bread, the sweetness, or a little bit of sweetness, but very much hay. A little bit of sweet vinegar, but not much. Pretty much hay. So I was this weekend, I'll inform you as, oh, this is pretty moist too. Give you a look at this. This is how it's coming out. You can see all the bright Virginias in there. Yeah, but this is actually really rather moist. So I am going to learn from past mistakes, and I am going to give this some drying time rather than relive what I did with the secret number 55. So I will pause the video, give this some drying time, and we'll be back. And we are back. After a wee bit of drying time, the pipe is packed, so let's give her a go. Probably could let it dry a wee bit more, but things to do today. Can't spend all afternoon waiting around tobacco. Well, I'll tell you, initially, based on the false light, I do not have high hopes. Well, I'm glad I went with the meerschaum and did a fresh ream and clean on it before I packed that. Because if not, the only thing I'd be tasting right now is whatever I smoked in this pipe before. This is disappointing. It's very nearly hot air. I mean, I'm getting some Virginia. It is mainly Virginia, but when I say I'm getting some Virginia, I'm saying barely a back note. I'm getting no dark fire at all. This would be a good smoke for somebody who has never smoked a pipe before. And you want to introduce them to pipe smoking. It's not really mellow. So, I mean, you could be, this is very nearly hot air. Disappointing. I'm going to, go through, this is just the initial part of the bowl. So I'll keep going. I'll get through the whole bowl. I won't give up on it just quite yet. But I think this is probably going to be stuck on the bottom shelf. And I'll come back to it in a year or so. I might try a second bowl with more drying time. But I don't have high hopes. Not this year anyway. Maybe next year. I'm afraid to drink my coffee. That's all I'm going to taste now is coffee. What? Okay. Yeah. Definitely does not stand up coffee. Well, anyway. Getting back to our subject matter for the series. I was able to, I'm just going to set this to the side. I'll come back to it after I get done talking because it's not appealing enough to make me want to keep going just at the moment. At this juncture, finishing that bowl is going to be kind of like a homework assignment. So, but I won't give up. And if it turns out being better, I'll let you know. If you've had Indaba and you have a vastly different experience than me, then leave me a comment. Or if you've aged it and it's turned around and done better, then let me know. But so this past week, I just returned actually. I was leading a conference at a local hotel. downtown El Paso. Really nice hotel. I got some pictures, and they had a cigar lounge there. So I got a couple pictures and a short video of myself in the cigar lounge, which I had all to myself for most of the time I was there. There was a couple of times when there was a few other people in there smoking cigars, but for the most part, it was just me and my pipe. So I'll show that here. Not entirely sure how good the audio is going to be on this, but I did want to share a video of the lovely little cigar lounge that I'm in at this hotel I'm staying at, enjoying Peterson the Straw with some Northwoods in it. Seemed like an appropriate blend for the atmosphere. I don't think I can turn the camera and keep this going, so I'm going to stop it, do a little pan to show you from this as well, from this conference that I'm leaving here this weekend. So I will stop there and come back to the main video. So a lovely place. And while I was there, I brought for a pleasure reading the book I'm currently in, which is Poet at the Breakfast Table. And this is a collection of essays and poems by Oliver Wendell Holmes, one of the Fireside Poets. And as I'm going through and reading this, it starts out, and I think the first paragraph in the introduction is just brilliant. So I want to start by reading that. The idea of a man interviewing himself is rather odd, to be sure, but then that is what we are all of us doing every day. I talk half the time to find out my own thoughts, as a schoolboy turns out his pockets inside out to see what is in them. He brings to light all sorts of personal property he has forgotten in his inventory. I love that, the idea that, interviewing yourself, challenging your own thoughts, thinking about what it is you think about and why. It's important. And as he says here in that analogy, it brings things to light under further examination you may not have even known they were there. Presuppositions and biases that you have about different topics. Why do I think that way? So he said, yeah, it could be odd to sit and interview yourself, but it's a good idea to do that. And that's essentially what this is. And if you've ever read the essays by Montesquieu, the French author, that's essentially what that all is. It's just him examining himself in the context of his current life and his cultural milieu, to use the fancy term for it. Basically, his life in that point in time. So largely, that's what this is. And it's a great collection of essays and stories. And there's a poem in here that I thought was rather poignant. So it's called Homesick in Heaven. So I'm going to go through the first couple of stanzas. And of course, as my years have caught up with me, back to the readers. Go seek, maybe back to the readers, there we go. Go seek thine earth-born sisters, thus the voice that all obey, the sad and silent three. These only, while the host of heaven rejoice, smile never, ask them what their sorrows be. And when the secret of their griefs they tell, look on them with thy mild half-human eyes, say what thou wast on earth, knowest well, so shall they cease from unveiling sighs. Why thus apart? The swift-winged herald spake, sit ye with silent lips and unstrung lyres, while the Trisagon's blending chorals wake in shouts of joy from the heavenly choirs. Chide not thy sisters, thus the answer came. Children of earth, our half-weaned nature clings to earth's fond memories, and her whispered name untunes our quivering lips, our saddened strings. It goes on for a bit more for that, for a couple more pages. But essentially, this poem is about us clinging to earth rather than our true and heavenly home. And it's, of course, reflected in the Bible, in the Old Testament, in Exodus, when the Hebrews start moaning and complaining to Moses, oh, why'd you take us out of Egypt where we had cucumbers and leeks and all this fun food and stuff? Never mind, they were forced to sacrifice their children and lived in slavery. They were remembering all those bits of good things, and back then when it was more familiar. That's kind of what this poem is talking about here. The angels are essentially looking at the humans, and the humans aren't happy. They're not rejoicing to be in heaven. And the angels are like, what is going on? Why are you not like shouting with joy and playing your instruments and stuff? And the Trinity then speaks to the angels, and cleverly he refers to them as their half human eyes, because angelic beings being somewhere between there, but which is a theology we can get into in another video. But the Trinity says, give them some time. They're still mourning the loss of Earth, of their heavenly home. They haven't really fully quite grasped the heavenly home that they were truly called to. And it put me in mind of a great many videos that the 13 Pipes has done where he talks about Planet BS, right? And some of the back and forth that goes on with some of the comments and him and things of that nature. I didn't mention his videos quite a bit because I find them really interesting and challenging. So if you haven't checked his channel out, you absolutely should. Language study alone is worth watching those videos. But from a theological perspective, there's a lot of things that come out of those videos. And you watch his videos, and you watch Across the Table that Parsimonius does, and the interplay and the contradicting views therein, I think, bring a great deal to light in terms of Christian theology. So, but in any case, we have that kind of view, that clinging to what is familiar, even when it may not be the best thing for us. You see it, unfortunately, in abusive relationships all the time. People going back to their abusive partners, and you're like, what are you doing? Well, it's wrong, and they know it's damaging, but it's also familiar, and we feel that call to go to what is familiar because the unknown is scary. Even if we know and we read it in Scripture that we know it's better, we still may cling to that which is familiar. And that's the challenge in the poem. And that's kind of what he's talking about as you go through the rest of the stanzas, is learn to step out into the unknown, put your faith in Christ, and step out and let Christ lead you. Let Christ be that safety net, not that which is familiar. So, well, I shall now return to my disappointing tobacco. And we'll see if I get through the rest of the pipe and it ends up towards the bottom, something surprising happens, I'll let you know. But otherwise, I think this jar is just going to go on the bottom shelf for a year. So I hope you have a lovely week and some more interesting tobacco. And as always, happy reading.